This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, a.k.a. the Python Hyena. And folks, Jim Valente has been on here 3 previous times promoting his Blood Passions book series, which is go from a trilogy to a quadrilogy very, very soon, if that's a proper word. He was on here once with actress Sky Johnson, and she's been on here as a solo once before as well. So a lot of a domino effect, and I guess through Jim, I have learned that Blood Passions is going to become a feature film, and you know we need some fresh life breathed into the vampire subgenre, because to repair what Twilight ruined. So I bring you folks Jim Valente back again. How do you do, Jim?
Good evening. I do great. Very good. We got decent weather down here in Boston.
Yeah?
I hope your weather's been a little better.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. I'm right now getting prepared. My last interview before I fly off to Toronto to Comic-Con. I've never been to a Comic-Con, but I've been to Horrorama, so.
Yeah,
yep,
that's
so
cool.
I'm going down there for a couple days and then coming back here and do more of these.
Well, Comic-Con, I used to get into doing that stuff, the conventions in Boston and stuff, but I don't know. I mean, ever since these comic book companies sold out to corporations, things have changed.
Well, I find with me, I'm looking forward to going, but the same token, it's kind of like it's not my scene. Because for me, I'm more of a horror fan or a comedy fan, especially slasher films and teen comedies seem to be my favorite subgenres, and cult films. I like cult films,
Yeah.
So I like anything that's a little weird or different, and it's funny because I'm sitting there. We've only got 4 movies playing here that I haven't seen, and I'm really not interested in any of them. And when booking outside my trip to Comic-Con, I was booking around looking at the cinemas there, and I discovered Greta is playing at one of them. We don't have that here, and I kind of am interested to see that, so I might go see that one in Toronto. So, yeah. Then come back.
That's sort of a horror film, I think.
Yeah, it's got Isabelle Huppert in it and Chloe Grace Moretz, so I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll go see that. It's
a psychological thriller.
Yeah. I can't.
Which takes you into the Alfred Hitchcock vein of things.
Well, I know they're popular, but I'm not really into the whole superhero thing. I didn't go see Aquaman. I didn't go see Bumblebee, although I heard it's better than the Michael Bay Transformers movies, but I'll never know. It just gets to the point where the advertisements of these just go over the top of my head, and I'm like, I'm just not interested. Bring me something that's unique, or trying to be unique, and I'm just
Funny
not
thing
seeing
about
it.
Bumblebee. Bumblebee, of course, is the foremost Transformer. He was one of the first toys they put out, because I remember my sons had him as when they were children, and he was a Volkswagen Bug.
Mm-hmm.
When they first wanted to do the Transformers first movie, Volkswagen would not allow them to use the Volkswagen Bug, which was a big mistake on their part. So they went to Chevy. Chevy had a concept Camaro, and they wanted to promote it, of course, and they saved a ton of money by letting him use that car for Bumblebee.
Mm-hmm.
It was yellow. But now Volkswagen changed their mind because using their Camaro, they sold a ton of those cars before they were even started to make them.
Mm-hmm.
People put in pre-orders. They sold a ton of that Camaro because of the movie. And Volkswagen was kicking themselves in the butt for not letting them use the Bug.
Yep.
But now they changed their mind, and the new Bumblebee movie, he is a Volkswagen Bug.
Mm-hmm.
So they finally smartened up,
Yep.
I thought that was weird. Why wouldn't you promote your product in Hollywood
Yep. Well, that's the same problem here too. New Brunswick has no niche for films, really. I'm right now co-producer on one film and associate producer on another.
Great.
And it's only because, well, there's nothing going on here for films that is going to go anywhere outside this province. And I get tired of this whole mentality of, well, we're big in our own little place. We don't want to go any further. That's just what it seems like, and I can't be there.
Yeah, well, Toronto and Vancouver are the big movie places up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, they use Toronto to be. They make it Chicago. They'll film in Toronto, and they'll make the audience believe they're in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And Vancouver is Canada's Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
It's the third best place to do filming nowadays. Mm-hmm. First is Louisiana. Second is Atlanta. Third is Vancouver, and fourth is L.A. But L.A. is used mainly for the backyards they have.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you want to do a period piece
mm-hmm.
and you want a 1940s New York City, they have that, and you can rent it. So you got to go to L.A.
Well, speaking of movies, I guess Blood Passions is becoming a movie. Talk about
Blood Passion singular.
Blood Passion. Okay.
And I'm working on the screenplay.
How did that come about?
Huh?
How did this come about? Because, I mean, this is your fourth time on here, and, we've been talking about this for a long, long time, and now finally, you're writing a screenplay. So who approached you, and how did this all come about?
I was on a vodcast,
mm-hmm.
and I was only on. There was a technical difficulty with the vodcast, so I was only on the phone like I am with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on for maybe 30, 35 minutes, and I was asked about Blood Passion, the novels. And at that time, I had done 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And to my best knowledge, a producer in Atlanta, Melissa English,
mm-hmm.
because the broadcast came out of Atlanta. And she's a producer, so she keeps in touch with what's going on in the media.
Okay.
She got wind of it. She went on my Facebook page, and she saw some of the stuff I put on there and the graphics and everything that I make, and she got very interested. So she contacted me
mm-hmm.
through Facebook. She said, "I would like to talk to you about your project, your books." I said, "I'm a producer in Atlanta, and I really would like to talk to you about it, making them into a film." So I started to talk with her. That was back in April last year.
Okay.
And that's when we started to put the project together. And then I got Sky involved to play female lead.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very excited about doing that because I think she'd be perfect.
How difficult was it to get Sky? Because she's not a name.
It wasn't difficult at all to get her. She was like,
okay.
"I'll do it."
No, I mean, but to get Sky to agree, I mean, it's to get the... like a lot of movies right now, they want a name performer.
Yeah, because the stories are no good.
Yeah, that. So I'm wondering, and I got total faith in Sky, but Sky is not, say, Angelina Jolie.
No,
Yeah,
no.
That's what I'm asking you about. How did you get them to agree on Sky?
The thing is, I believe, it's a catch-22 for actors and performers. Mm-hmm. If they don't get a spotlight, they're not going to go anywhere. And nobody wants to give it to them because, it's like, what have you done? So until they do something major and do a lead, nobody wants to talk to them. But somebody's got to give them a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's every actor out there. Somebody gave them a chance. And they did it. And they became good at it, and people liked them, and so on and so forth. I mean, everybody's a nobody at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You take the movie Casablanca, phenomenal movie, my favorite. Ingrid Bergman was an unknown European actress.
Mm-hmm.
And all the actors in Casablanca were all, they were character players. Even Bogey. Bogey was only a character player in that when he was up there.
He was in the Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, but he was still considered a character player, not a leading man.
Mm.
He was playing a character.
Okay.
That was more or less a literary historical character. So he was playing somebody that somebody else invented. Casablanca, those characters don't relate to anybody in literature. Rick was totally made up by the writers of Casablanca, and the phenomenal thing about Casablanca was it was written as they filmed it. In other words, the actor would finish their daily shoot, and while they're doing that, the writers would write for tomorrow, and then they'd give it to them, and they'd go home, or they'd go where they were staying, and they'd study it and come back the next day and do it. So they didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. They didn't even have the end of that movie until they got to the end of it. There were several different endings.
Okay.
Now, when they came to casting, they went in, they looked at the Maltese Falcon, they cast a lot of people from, if you look at that Maltese Falcon, that's almost the same cast.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of they're all character actors. Bogey wasn't considered a romantic lead at the time. He was considered a major character actor. He could play the major character. They wanted a romantic lead. They went to everybody on their list, the way the studios did it back then, and everybody refused it because they didn't want to play opposite an unknown Swedish actress. They were like, no. So they went down the list. They finally got down, with all due respect, to Bogey. And Bogey said, he read the story. He read what he could of the story, the synopsis. And he said, yeah, I'll take it. So he took it. He took it, did a great job. It's a great film, became an Academy. To me, it's the quintessential film. I mean, most films are based on that film.
Okay.
It's a love triangle. It's during a war situation, a pre-war situation. You got the bad guys, the good guys, and Bogey's his character's somewhere in between. He's sort of a good guy, bad guy. And it's a great film. The story alone carries it. That's what I was just saying a little while ago. If it's a great story, it doesn't matter who's in it. Could be
True.
anybody. I mean, I've seen movies that were great movies, and to me, it didn't matter who was playing the parts. Anybody could have played them.
Oh, I
The story
agree.
was so
A
strong.
lot of it comes down to staying power with a movie, because a lot of times when they get these big blockbusters, a lot of them don't exactly rise up to the hype that they've been promoted as, and yet there's some movies, especially some independents, that are overlooked that end up gaining a major cult following, and I could think of several examples of that.
Yep.
And
Sure you could.
Yep.
Well, Hollywood when they make mistakes, they make big mistakes. They make big mistakes. Valeria. Did you see the movie Valeria?
Oh.
It's a European comic book.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. It's a European comic book. I think I got it right. I think it's Valeria. Anyway, the special effects were great. The story was weak. They spent $180 million making this film, and they didn't make $1 on it. It was a total flop in the theaters. $180 million was wasted.
Okay.
You could make 6 or 7 good films with that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine that. I mean, I watched it, and I'm saying all these special effects are awesome. I says, but the story just lacks strength. It was dumb. And of course, we're getting to a point where everything's been done. There's nothing new out there. It's the way they do them now. It's not what's been done, it's the way it's being done.
Yep.
And that's the only thing you can do. I mean, recently the film that came out about the werewolves, what is it called? Out of the Shadows, with one of your favorite actresses, Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, yeah, we didn't get that.
You didn't get that, okay?
No,
Well,
I love Lindsay though.
she's in that. She plays an older character.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the, what I could see of it. I haven't seen the film yet, but she looks like she does a great job. They took the werewolves back to being vicious animal killers, not these huggable, lovable, logical things. These guys turn into werewolves, and they just go out and kill.
Mm-hmm.
The love of killing. And that's the way the first werewolf ever was.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, the classic horror movie monsters was Frankenstein, werewolf, Dracula, and the Mummy, and the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the classic monsters. What kills me is they've turned monsters into teddy bears.
Yep.
And, of course, they have to focus it on the new generation to get any attention out of it.
Well, I often wondered, and I'm sorry, I might sound like a spoil sport here, but you look at Hotel Transylvania, and they're advertising these horror movie characters as kids' animation characters, and I'm like, there's something about that I'm not quite on par with.
Yeah, I know, but they get, what it is, they soften it up so much that it gets by the censors.
Yeah.
I mean, they did that. They've been doing that years. They did years ago. There was a cartoon about Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Saturday morning cartoon about Frankenstein. I remember way back in the 80s. Whatever, like I said, it's the same thing, only done differently. It's like what I'm doing with the screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different approach. I'm learning the hard way why movies and books are never exactly the same. And I'm understanding why. Because, Blood Passion Book 1 is the book in subject. It's a 170-page novel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But movies, they look for 90 pages because a page is a minute on film. So one of my task is to cut it down to 90 pages. Now I've got the first eight minutes done, and it's been approved by the production company. They looked at it, they loved it. They said, "Fine, we're going with this. Keep going." And it's also the way I presented it. It's not just how I wrote it, but I said, I want this to succeed, and I want it to be, because there's 3 books I want it to be a sequel situation. And I said to myself, what is the most successful sequel movies in the world? That's easy. James Bond.
Okay, yeah.
And how do James Bond movies start? They start with like a mini movie or the end of an adventure. They go into credits, and then they start the main movie. I said, I'm going to pay tribute to the producers and do that with Blood Passion. So what I did was I wrote the prelude, but I had to change it because here's the tough part. There's no narration. I've already talked to the producers. I said, what do I have to work with? I said, do I have narration? They said, no. Do I have thinking out loud and thoughts? They said, yes, you can use those. But don't use thoughts too often. Use the thinking out loud because we all do that when we're alone. We talk to ourselves all the time. Half the time we don't realize it. But yeah, when you're alone, you talk out loud to yourself. So they said, yeah, that's a normal human thing. It's the human condition. Use it. So I said, okay, great, because now when my character's alone, I have dialogue. So here's the thing. Okay, the screenplay opens up with the prelude from the book, which is about 4 pages, and I got it down to 3. I wrote it just a little different. I took advice from Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury, great writer, wrote Something Wicked This Way Comes. Great book. I read it. It's a great story. He also was tasked with writing the screenplay for the movie. But when I saw the movie and I read the book, I said, he changed it. But now I know why. Because he had to shorten it. He had to make things happen faster than he did in the book. He had to shorten it down. He had to cut out some stuff. So I said, okay, that's what he did. That's what I got to do. But like Melissa said to me, she says, I definitely want the core story there. Don't change the story. Don't change the characters. You can eliminate some things that are not important or make them happen faster than they do in the book. For instance, there's one section where he wants to have a security system put in the house. And in the book, it's a little dragged out. The guy comes to the house, they go through the house, he's telling them, okay, we can do this, we can do that, we can secure this archway and those windows and so on and so forth. So he goes through that, and then they decide to do it and when to do it. Now, in the movie, I can just show a keypad on the door, on the front door, and the back door. And you know that he had a security system put in. So you shorten it up. I can shorten it up that much. I can cut the segment down to just a keypad showing up beside the door, even if it's a fake one. because the house we're going to use down in Mobile, I don't believe has a keypad. So we'll just stick one beside the door, and then we'll take it off when we're done.
Mm-hmm.
That's movie magic. That's easy to do, but that's the easiest way to shorten that segment up, because that's like a half a chapter. So instead of going through him calling these companies and asking if they can do it, and one of them comes out and he has an interview with them and blah, 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 I won't do all that. I'll just, show the keypad on the door. I'll show him thinking, I should get a security system in the house, and all of a sudden there's a keypad on the door. So, he went through the process, and it's done.
Okay.
Because it's got to be shortened.
Yeah.
Between visuals and dialogue, that's what tells the story.
Agreed.
Now, at the beginning, the prologue comes on. You see what happens there. I made a little more mystery to it. Nobody sees the creature. One person sees the creature, and I call it a creature. I don't even call it a bat anymore. In the movie, it's a creature, a weird-looking creature that looks similar to a bat because it's mutated. There's only one person that sees it. In the book, there's two people that see it, and one of them actually fights with it. But I said I got to shorten it up. So I made it more of a mystery where they come to the door of their hotel room, and then you switch camera to inside the hotel room, and there's a shadow of a winged creature flying across the room, but a shadow on the wall, which is I'm trying to also make easy special effects. We don't want to spend a lot of money on special effects.
Mm-hmm.
So you see this shadow of a winged creature fly across the room, and the people are outside, ready to come in. So you see that, then you switch back to the outside the door, and they unlock the door, and they come in, and they don't, if you're expecting them to see something, they don't see anything. So you're like, what was it? Where'd it go? More mystery. Well, they go about their business. No, nothing really happens. They go out to dinner. They come back. They leave because they're leaving the next morning to go home. They go home, and she opens her suitcase, and lo and behold, this creature's inside her suitcase. And she took it home with her. It comes out from under her clothing, and she screams, she panics, this thing is disorientated. It flies away, flies out the window. Because her husband hears her scream, so he comes running up, and all he sees is the back of this thing going out the window. So he doesn't get to see it either. And all she says, it was hideous. This creature was in my luggage. So then it flies out, and that would end that segment. The screen would fade to black. The credits would come up, the title comes up, and then we open it up again with the main character sitting on the porch of a house, which is the house we're going to use for the movie. Now, I have to look at this as the audience. Like, I know nothing beyond what I'm writing. So, okay, I got this guy sitting on the porch of a house. So the audience is like, who's this? What's he doing there? All right, so there's no narration. So what happens is the woman who came home and that creature came out of her luggage, she gets a call from this she goes over to the house, and she says, I got a call from one of the neighbors saying that your grandfather had passed when we were away, and we did know him. He was the one that created this neighborhood. He sold us the land to build a house, blah, blah, blah. And I just want to come over and give my condolences. And she says, you're Michael. He goes, yes, I'm Michael, the grandson. I'm Michael Valley. This is not verbatim, but, So anyway, so he introduces himself to the audience. He's Michael Valley. And she says, are you here to clear out the house for selling? He goes, no, I'm moving in. So now you understand the house belonged to his grandfather. He's moving in to live there.
Yep.
Everything I told you in the book is now told through a dialogue. And that's the way you have to do it. And then they end their conversation. And what I did with that was also give me new information. She's speaking with a heavy southern drawl, and he's got a light one. So right away that says to you, this is happening down south, because she's using words like reckon, fixin', ifin'. It's very, because I've been down there and I've talked to people down there, and that's the way Sky talks. So I put that in, of course, into her dialogue. And I already have the actress that actress has been cast to play that part in another part. She's going to play the neighbor, and she's also going to play one of the female victims later on. because I'm taking a tip from Dan Curtis,
Okay.
the creator of Dark Shadows.
Okay.
Dan Curtis had an ensemble cast for that whole series. He reused actors to play different characters from the past or from the future. So in other words, a female actress playing someone in the now would play a character in the past with a different name. I want to do that. So I have actors playing two different parts because they're going to look a little different, and they're not going to be shown on screen at the same time. So, like the actor that's playing the grandfather to do the flashbacks is also going to be playing Michael's father, and he can do it. Believe me, he can look different. He's a chameleon, just like Meryl Streep could do chameleon acting. She's the ultimate chameleon when it comes to acting. You see her in one film, and it's like, that's her. You see her in another one. She's fantastic that way. Well, I guess she's retired now from acting, but
Who, Meryl?
yeah, I heard something about she's retired from acting. She's not going to do anymore.
I never heard anything about that. She was in Mary Poppins Return last year.
Yeah, but I think that might be her last thing for a while. I think she's going to go into productions, doing productions. But anyway, well, actors do that. They get tired of... Actually, what I've been doing now, what I've been learning in the last 3 or 4 months, actors have the easiest part of the whole production. I am going to be known as an associate producer and a script consultant, which means I got to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see these people perform these parts, and I have to give my approval. I have to give a nod and say, yeah, they did it right, or no, we should do that again. It wasn't quite right. And this is the kind of power that Melissa wants me to have, because she believes in my writing, like you do. She says the story is a strong story. It's a great reintroduction to vampires into our world. And it's also, don't forget, it's also a story taken from the vampire's point of view. It's not a vampire chaser story. It's a vampire. You're right beside him living his life. You're with him all the time, which doesn't always happen in film. I mean, even Dracula. If you read Dracula, I read the book. He's at the beginning, he's at the end. Everything else is other characters. So they don't really focus in on Dracula. My story focuses in totally on, just like Dark Shadows focused in on Barnabas Collins. The story was told, he switched it over to telling it from Barnabas's point of view, which has made it successful. So when you look at success from the past, you go, that's the way it should be done. And my vampire is like him, only younger. Forget about the Johnny Depp, Tim Burton version. That was a horrible version. Okay,
I agree.
That should have been thrown away before it even hit the theaters.
Yeah.
I mean, I was hoping. I had high hopes. I really did. I said, "Oh my God, Johnny Depp is Barnabas Collins," but they made him look like a clown.
Yeah,
and you could tell he was a vampire. He could never stop looking like a vampire. He always looked like, and they showed him brushing his fangs with a toothbrush. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I said, they ruined this. God, Tim Burton. His next film is coming out, Dumbo, and that's what he's good for. He's good for like stupid films.
I don't know if I agree with that. Tim Burton's done a lot of good movies. I mean, Ed Wood was terrific. I liked Sleepy
but even
Hollow.
The subject matter was ridiculous. I mean, Ed Wood was a weirdo. Let's put it that way.
He might have been a weirdo, but I mean, he's one of these guys that people were fascinated by.
Don't forget, Ed Wood made the worst movie ever made.
I thought Tommy Wiseau did.
He made the Planet 9 from Outer Space, which is dubbed the worst film ever made.
Yeah. Well, that may be, and I'm not doubting that, but it's got some competition. I think
George Pal also had the reputation of making terrible films until he made War of the Worlds.
I mean, for me, Gigli goes up there quite high for me as one of the worst movies I ever seen. Pearl Harbor was certainly one that goes up there for me.
But I'm sure there's a lot of them, but actually the first and the number one worst movie ever made is Planet 9 from Outer Space. And I actually recently watched it. just to refresh myself, I said, yeah, this is horrible. The dialogue is horrible. The story is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're mixing vampires with zombies, and Ed Wood he didn't know what to do with that. And he had Bela Lugosi at the beginning, but then Bela died during production.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's something about, I mean, there's horrible, horrible movies like Pearl Harbor and Geely, and then there's movies that are so bad they're funny, which is why movies like The Room appeal to me. You know, movies like Plan 9 from Outer Space. I mean, they have a cult following because they're movies that people know are bad, but they can show up and laugh at and have fun with. You know,
it's almost like the curiosity factor makes you go.
Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 is another one that falls into this. You know, I interviewed the director of that film, and for years he just tried to hide from it until it just started becoming an internet meme. And even Eric Friedman starts showing up to horror conventions now, and he's just shocked at the appreciation and love he gets from the fans. Some movies are so bad that they're fun to watch. That's why people attend midnight screenings of The Room, and they throw footballs and they throw plastic spoons at the screen because it becomes an event, you know.
They also have an open mind because you got to realize what they had to work with back then. Special effects were, you know, unseen wires, stop action. I mean, you look at the 1960s and 70s television shows. And I want to do, you know, I've talked to Melissa many times, and I said, Melissa, when it comes to special effects, I want to approach them like the television shows back in the 50s and 60s. She goes, yeah. I says, you know, if somebody has to disappear, we do the stop film, move away, start film, just like in Bewitched. If something has to fly across the room, put it on a wire, you know, goes across the room. In the film where the bat flies into the window of the attic of the house, you know, just have a wire going through the window in a soundstage, and just quickly have this black winged thing just down the wire into the window. Done. Because you don't want to reveal what it is. You just want to, like a flash, it holds on to the mystery. I want to hold the mystery I didn't do it in the book because I was afraid I'd bore the reader. But in movies, it's a different approach. The more mystery, the more you hold back, the more people like it when it comes to movies. They don't like, and look at the monster movies. You see the monster the last 10 minutes of the movie, you finally get to see the monster. Mm-hmm. And that makes people sit through the whole damn thing.
Yep.
So what I'm approaching the story from a different angle. I can put more mystery into it because I don't want to reveal the creature until I have to. I don't want to reveal where it's taking place until I have to. Yes, it's a fictional city called Mystic, like in the book. Mystic is real in the book, but it's not in Connecticut. It's going to be Mystic, Louisiana. But Louisiana isn't, I haven't even put that in yet. I put Mystic in, but not Louisiana. That will come out eventually, that they're in Louisiana. And that's where the whole thing is supposed to take place, even though we're going to shoot some parts of it in Mobile, Alabama. You'll still believe you're in Mystic, Louisiana. It's movie magic. Yeah, I mean, it's a different approach. You approach it from a different angle. The story's told from one angle, the movie's told from another angle. And that's the way you have to do it, because we're not doing narration. There'll be voiceover thoughts, but not narration. So that was the biggest thing. I sat for almost 2 days thinking, okay, how am I going to do this without narration? Because in the book, I'm the narrator. I'm telling you what's going on, where it's going on, who this guy is, where he comes from, all kinds of background, what his name is, his age. I'm giving you I don't have to give physical descriptions because you'll get that from the film. Between visuals and dialogue, you'll get the story. I was happy that she said to me, it's okay to do thinking out loud. I said, great, because otherwise, I got a person walking around a house all alone saying nothing. Just doing visuals, and I also have to give, you have to give direction in the screenplay. Screenplay is not like a book. It goes deeper than a book. In other words, I may say in the book, yeah, he went into the kitchen, and that's in the book. But also in the screenplay, I have to say while in the kitchen, he did such and such, and then he says something out loud, and you have to say that. It's like Michael speaking out loud, and then you put down what he said. So I'm learning, and I've never taken any classes on this. I've never had any reading on it. And Melissa's impressed. She goes, "I'm impressed you're able to do this without any education of it." I says, "Well, I'm just playing it by ear." She goes, "Well, you're doing a great job. Keep going." And actually, Sky helped me. The last part of what I just wrote, the last few pages, which ends the scene, where he goes back into the house and he's doing what he does in the house, which leads up to him going up to the attic where this creature is now roosting. I said, Sky, says, "Do me a favor." I says, "From this page to that page, write something for me. Write what you believe." And she did. And she sent it to me, and I said, "Oh, my God, this is great." So all I did was I looked at it, I made a few minor changes, and I says, that ends the scene. So as far as the screenplay, he's now standing at the foot of the attic staircase. And up in the attic, the audience knows there's something up there that could be dangerous to him. So it's like, dun, 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 don't go up in the attic. And that's where I'm at.
Okay.
So now he's got to go, and he's alone in the house. There's no, he's all alone. He does spend most of his time alone in the house because there's a reason for that. And I'm a thinking writer.
Mm-hmm.
Once he becomes the vampire, at the beginning of it all, he feels he has no control because it does happen that he kills somebody without wanting to do it. His other persona comes in, takes control, and he kills the person. And when he wakes up and he's back to being his regular self, that's when he realizes what he's done or what his alter ego has done. So this scares us. I mean, this is the horror. To wake up knowing you murdered a human being,
mm-hmm.
and you had no control over it, it's just like you blacked
like
out and this other thing took over your body and mind and did whatever they wanted to do, and you committed murder. I mean, by law, you'd be blamed for that. That's the horror. So now he knows that this thing is capable of doing that to him, taking over anytime. He says that he's feeling every time it wants to. But he learns later on that it's only going to happen every couple of weeks, almost clockwork. So he keeps people away from him that he cares about or needs. So he never tells his mother to come to the house. He speaks to her on the phone, which actually Melissa, the producer, will be playing that part. She's also an actress. She'll be playing Michael's mother. Split-screen telephone calls. He keeps her far away because he's afraid that his evil side will take over and kill his own mother. So he keeps his friends away from it. He never invites his friends to the house. So he more or less spends most of his time alone in the house to protect the people he cares about. When he goes out, after a while he realizes that, it's a clockwork situation where he only has to, because vampire bats have to feed every 3 to 4 days. But the size of their body compared to ours was why it has to happen so soon. A human body being 100 times bigger than a vampire bat can go longer because we have more blood.
Yep.
So I figured he can go a couple of weeks without feeding. And in between, if he kills an animal, it can extend it. So he realizes after a while, he gets it down to a clockwork. He actually times it out. He takes note of when it starts, and when he comes back, he takes note of when it was over, so he knows how much time went on. And he knows when the next feeding. And as it happens, it's on a schedule of Saturday nights, which is great for him because that's a social atmosphere night. So anyway, and he kills. I mean, he kills without remorse, his alter ego. So it's not, these women are the impression when he starts killing women back at his house, they're under the impression they're going home with him to have a, intimate encounter. Not realize that he's only bringing them home because he wants to suck their blood.
So
anyway, yeah.
How far through are you now on this screenplay, and how long?
I'm 8 minutes in.
Okay, you say 90 minutes. Why not go a couple hours? I mean, if people can sit through,
that's where the money situation comes in.
You see,
the longer it goes, the more money you need.
You see, if people can sit through 3 hours of Titanic, and I thought that movie was boring, sorry, but then people can sit through a couple hours of Blood Passion.
Well, it has to do with financing. I mean, look at it this way. When you look at sequels done lately, the first films were shorter. That made the money to make the next film, which were longer. So, Melissa feels that the first film was going to make enough money to make the second film. And then we can go crazy with the second film. And a lot of sequels where the third or fourth book was very long, they cut it into 2 movies because they wanted to do the whole book. Yeah, and, it's funny because producers, insurance companies get involved, and, there's a lot to deal with. She mainly wants to go non-union. Non-union, we can get the film done quicker. Basically, because she told me, she's schooling me on the business end of it. She goes, union players can only work 8 hours a day. They quit. After 8 hours, they stop. No matter what's happening, they stop. But non-union players, we can have them work 12 hours a day. So non-union, we do the movie in 2.5 weeks. Union, we'd have to wait 3 or 4 weeks to do the film because we have less time. And also, the longer we take, the more money it's going to cost. Because don't forget, we're going to be renting space. At the house in Mobile, there's about 5 shoots we need to do there. One nighttime, and on the other one is a daytime. Only the front of the house is being used. When the character goes in the house, we cut. We go to a soundstage to finish that scene. But it'll appear to the audience that he just went inside, and there'll be no splice. I told the owners already. I spoke to the owners of the house. They're total agreement. That they said, if you want to use the inside, I said, no, I don't want to use the inside. The layout is wrong. The house in the story is not laid out like this. We'll use sound stages for the inside. I says, but I want to use the outside and the front porch, but not the back of the house, because the back of the house is too small. And it's also supposed to have a gazebo and overlooking a cliff overlooking the Gulf of Mexico or a large body of water. So the back of the house will be a sound stage. The front of the house will be the actual house. And the inside will be a sound stage, which means we have to go to Mobile and spend probably a week just filming certain scenes that happen at the front of the house. Sky, this is where Sky comes in. She has a scene. She ends the movie at the house. Okay, in the daytime. She also has a nighttime scene at the house where she goes to the front door, nobody answers, she starts to walk around the back. Now, like I told her, I says, the way we'll do that is you walk around the back and we'll cut when you get out. When you walk around the back and the camera loses you, that's when we cut and go to a sound stage. The rest of that will be done at a sound stage. She goes, yeah, I understand that. I says, great, good. So we go to the house for about a week. We do all the shooting we need to do there. There's also a section. There's a place on Dauphin Street in Mobile that I want to use. Okay. It's a bookstore. There's a flashback scene of his grandfather with a bookstore owner, which was originally on the phone, but I want to change it to a face-to-face, which they said is great. And I found the bookstore. It's called the Haunted Bookstore. And I already spoke to the manager. This was last year, and she says, I don't think they'd mind you filming outside on the sidewalk in front of the store. I says, well, it's great publicity for them. She goes, yeah, as long as, if you want to come inside, you'd have to talk to the owner. I says, no, I'm not looking to come inside. Because the way the scene would play out is the owner of the store is just inside the door. And when this gentleman, the grandfather, comes walking by, he comes running out to talk to him. Because the owner of the book, his grandfather has a private library of original printing, first printing classic books, like the first printing of Dracula, Frankenstein, all those books, because he's from Europe. He brought them from Europe. He was a great advocate of reading. He doesn't even have there's no television in the house.
Okay.
You'll appreciate that. There's no television in the house, so entertainment is radio or reading. I'm also going to bring back the radio. In the book, the grandfather has a Grundig shortwave radio, which he gets all his information from, and he listens to music, talk shows, music, sports events. He gets it off the radio in the library. No television. So he's an old school gentleman who grew up with the radio. He doesn't want to change. And the flashbacks reflect that. And of course, he has this elaborate library of books that he got when he was a younger man in Europe, and he brought them to America. Now, this bookstore owner knows this, and he wants to get his hands on these books because they're worth millions. They're first edition classic books in good shape. So when the guy comes walking past the store, he comes running out to talk to him about selling some of his books. And, of course, the grandfather is adamant about not wanting to do that, and they have a little verbal confrontation, and then they split. And the grandfather will continue walking down the street, and the bookstore owner will make it look like he goes back inside. That scene ends. And I want to do that. And the producer said, yeah, we can do that on Dauphin Street. They'll allow us. They do a lot of filming on Dauphin Street, she said. And the store's great. I mean, the haunted bookshop.
Yep.
Yeah. And you'll see that, we don't have to do any fake. It's there. We don't have to put up fake signs or anything. It's like, it'll cost us very little. We'll use the haunted bookshop. If you had a bookshop and you wanted to change, you have to put up a sign over their sign. We don't have to do that. And if they need compensation, they'll get it. Of course, the people that own the house will get compensation because we'll have the front yard full of lights and cameras. But it's also a bed and breakfast. And the owner had told me, she said, when the time comes and you want to film down here, if you want to stay here, sir, I'll give you a discount. How awesome would that be to wake up in the morning, have my breakfast, and walk outside and I'm on set?
Yep.
That would be so cool. And as far as using vehicles, we just use the actors' cars. Or a rent. I'll be down there with a rental vehicle. We can use that in the film. In other words, somebody pulls up in front of the house in a car, we use their car or the car I rented or whatever. I'm trying to keep the budget down. And she said, you're doing a great job at that. I said, yeah, the special effects won't be much at all. It'll be 50s and 60s special effects. And camera angles, stop action, wires, and it's not a lot of action. In other words, in the book, I may describe him driving somewhere, leaving the house. So in the movie, you see him leave the driveway, and then all of a sudden he's where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, but you got to be careful with wires and stuff like that, too. You got to make sure that stuff is concealed. And if you're having a bat, you got to make sure that, unless it's going really quick, you got to make sure that the wings are at least moving.
Yeah, bat wings don't move like bird wings.
No.
Bats do a lot of gliding. They don't do a lot of flapping. And also, don't forget, it's a mutated bat, so it's not a regular bat. It's not your regular everyday bat. So having different movement or less movement is okay. It actually shows the audience that this is not your run-of-the-mill bat. There's something going on here, which gives us a lot of freedom, which she said is great because this is not your average vampire bat. It's a mutated vampire bat. So it has some human aspects to it, it has some alien aspects to it, and it has some unknown aspects to it. I mean, in the book, the bat almost looks like he has a human face, a protruding jaw, but the face almost looks human.
Okay.
Almost like the monkeys from the Oz.
All right.
The original Oz series movie. Yeah, so I mean, right away, that gives me freedom because the bat is not your everyday average vampire bat. It's been mutated. It's a new species of bat. So not moving the way regular bats move is going to be acceptable. And I want it to go quick. I want things to be quick. I think that's because if you look at the old movies, special effects went really quick. If you blinked, you missed it. When people got into video,
yeah,
and they could actually stop. You look at the King Kong, okay?
Mm-hmm.
King Kong was, stop motion. And they said if you slow it down, you can actually see the fingerprints of when they moved his arms. You could see where their fingerprints were on his fur. people were like, my God, because it's going so fast, you can't see that. It just looks like it's first blowing in the wind. But when you slow it down to slow motion or stop motion, you can actually see people's fingerprints on the body when they were holding on to him, moving his arm in a different position, and then starting to film again. Yeah, I mean, what they had, that was amazing. I mean, what they had to work with and the way it came out. Yeah, some people weren't great at it. What's his name, the guy that did all the old dinosaur stuff?
Oh, Ray Harryhausen?
Yeah, Harryhausen, yeah.
Yep.
He was great. He did a lot of stop-action stuff.
Yep, I've done 2 tribute interviews on him.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was the pioneer for creatures that don't exist and making them come to life.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we have digital, but she said to me, she goes, if we have to go into digital, it ups the budget. If we can do it without digital, I said, I will try to come up with a way without using digital special effects. I said, I'll think back to the old ways. As far as the bat coming out of her clothing, it's a very quick look. You see the face, you see the eyes, you go back to her screaming and panicking, and then he comes in, you see the bat fly out the window. You see the back of the bat go out the window. Gone. Now, like, what the hell was that? Even Michael, when he gets attacked, he doesn't even know what's attacking him. And it's because it's dark up in the attic, because there's only 2 bulbs up in the attic, and he doesn't know if it was a bird or was whatever it was that attacked him. He finally goes back up and he finds the bat's comatose body and realizes, okay, it's this weird-looking bat. And then he's wondering, what the hell is this thing going to do to me? I mean, it's almost like an unknown creature attacked you, and then you get to see what it was, and you're like, oh, my God. See, that's also the horror part, too. My horror comes from the unknown. Like, what has this weird-looking thing done to me? You know if a dog bites you, you get certain shots and you're usually okay. But if a dog bites you that doesn't look like a dog, it looks more like a cross between a dog and a cat, let's say, you're like, oh, my God, what's that going to do to me? Getting bit by something like that. And that's horrible to think about. And, of course, when he's going through the transformation, that's explained later why. He's getting sick, dizzy, throwing up. He can't hold down any food. He thinks he's got a virus, but he doesn't think he'll go to the hospital because he doesn't know how to tell them what happened to him. They're going to think I'm nuts. So I got to go through this on my own. He finally gets through it. It takes 3 days. He finally gets through it. It subsides, and that's when he becomes the vampire. His first meal is a raccoon. That's his first blood passion feeding is a raccoon. That gets him started, but then he kills his girlfriend, and that begins his human feeding situation. And his logical human side says, okay, if I can't control this thing, I got to have some control. I will go to where I want to go to do this. I'll have that much control. I'll be the vehicle to transport my vampire side to where I want to do it. So he starts going into larger cities and feeding off homeless people, hanging out in alleyways, dark alleys, and feeding off homeless, which he's figuring I'm doing them a favor because they're living a horrible life. So although he's not in control of his vampire side, he's in control of where it's going to happen. Away from the house, someplace, in a city where people are living a horrible life, not in where he lives. So he's smart enough to realize I have some control here. I can control I can't control what's going to happen, but I control where it's going to happen. And eventually he gets more and more control. And he finds a book in his grandfather's library that he believes might give him more control, and he goes through trying to use that book, which is it's a book that supposedly was co-written by Satan. And if you can it helps you conjure him up, and if you do, you can get his powers. It's taken from a Johnny Depp film. But I changed the title of the book a little bit, but the premise is the same. So he goes to a friend of his who can read Latin because the book's written in Latin, and he interprets the book for him, and he finds it just too hard to do. So in the meantime, he's getting more control. So he gives up on that idea. But it's sort of a side story. I don't know how much of it I'm going to use.
Do you have a director attached to this?
What we have so far is we have a line producer lined up.
Okay.
She said, that's the first thing we need is the line producer. I guess the line producer is one of the most important people because I understand the title line means they keep everything in line. You know, they keep the production in line, they keep the schedule in line, they keep the payroll in line. So they're the line producer. And you need that first. She knows what she's doing. So I told her, I says, you're the business end, I'm the creative end. She goes, yes, I'll take care of the business end. So we're in the budget as consultants, me and her.
So
we are consultants.
What about casting?
Casting is done. I've done the casting. I did the casting.
Okay,
And I was ridiculed by somebody who works in Hollywood that I shouldn't be doing the casting because I'm not qualified.
Oh, okay.
And my argument was this. I said, every writer that wrote a book always had an actor in mind for the character they were writing. That's the first casting right there.
Okay.
I said, so you're going to tell me I'm not able to cast? When I was writing these characters, I had someone in my mind who I'd like to see play it. You know, and I said I was mentally casting the part. And this person kind of just went silent. I says, you're just doing that because you want me to pay a casting company to do it. Mm-hmm. I can bypass the casting company by casting it myself.
Yep.
And if an agent gets pissed off at me, I don't give a shit because I'm bypassing agents too.
Yep.
I said, if these agents aren't doing their job and these actors are not getting work and I'm giving them work, then why should these agents get paid?
That's
if
true.
the agent came to me to present their actor, I said, okay, you should get something. But you didn't do anything. So unless I was talked to, and unless they're under contract with an agency that everything has to go through their agency, then they can actually do it on their own, eliminate the agency. Most of my actors do not have agents. I think I have one or two that have agents. And if they want to pay their agent 10% of their pay, that's up to them. I'm not going to pay. It'll come out of their pay, not, the budget. If you want to, I said, if you want to pay your agent for doing nothing, that's up to you, because they had nothing to do with this. I says, if you want the part, I'd like to give it to you. I've seen some video of what you've done. You've got a great look. You've got the look I want for the character. You've got the personality because I've watched, use a video reel of the person. There's only one person that hasn't been cast yet. And I haven't talked to her about that in a while. We want to try to get Lily Tyler.
Okay. Yeah, I like her, yeah.
From The Haunting and Mystic Pizza and a few other things. She has the character that came to mind for this character looks a lot like her. She's a cross between Jamie Lee Curtis, and Lily Tyler.
Yeah,
and then the girl that plays on Big Bang Theory, she plays Amy Farrah Fowler.
Yeah.
She also played Blossom when she was a kid.
Okay.
The character fits into those looks right there. She said, the last time I talked to Melissa, she said, I think I can get her.
Lily Taylor?
Which would be, a name.
You think you can get Lily Taylor?
She goes, I think we can get her. I've sort of made preliminary contact with her management.
Okay.
I said, she'd be great because the character has that look.
Okay.
I said, if you can't get her, then go for the girl that plays on Big Bang Theory playing Cooper's wife. She goes, yeah, I could get her much easier. I said, well, go for her then, because she has the same type of look. It's sort of like these women I'm talking about, they don't normally look glamorous and beautiful, but they can if they work at it.
Yeah, I liked Lily Taylor in High Fidelity. She was really good in that. Yep.
She can look very glamorous, but on the other hand, she can look very homely. Just like Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep can look really glamorous or really homely. And that's the chameleon part of it,
Mm-hmm.
So the girl that actually is in my mind that I wrote this character, that's the way she was. She had that look. If she did herself up, makeup and hair and clothing, she would look very glamorous. Otherwise, when she didn't do hair and makeup and she just wore a sweatshirt, she looked plain and kind of homely. And I said, I need to go for that. That's what I need for this character. We need someone that can do that. And, Jamie Lee Curtis is too old. Mm-hmm. But Lily Tyler would be great, or the girl that plays on Big Bang Theory. And she said, okay, I'll see what I can do with that. I says, that's your casting right there.
That's
the only character that hasn't been cast yet.
Oh,
and it's an important character. It's the first human victim.
Okay. Well, that'd be interesting too, because you get a name who's going to be taken out early.
And that happens in films. I mean,
yep.
You know what was amazing was to Live and Die in L.A. Okay. I was like blown away when the main character got killed right away. Nobody's ever seen that happen. It was like something new. You thought this person was going to be through the whole film, but in the first 10 or 15 minutes, they got killed, and they're gone.
Well, it's happened before. I mean, Janet Leigh in Psycho.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Janet Leigh is another great example.
And Drew Barrymore in Scream.
Yep.
Yep.
So we get Lily, but, like I said, it's an important part because this character is the first human victim. This starts him as a vampire drinking human blood or sucking human blood. She is the number one. She gets the ball rolling.
So
from that on, he goes into, the taste of human blood.
Talk about casting Sky Johnson, because I know that she's been on here a couple times before, and that's kind of how I got talking about this project. And of course, you and Sky have known each other for a little while, so
yeah, we've become very close friends. Mm-hmm. I've even spent time at her house.
Yeah,
down there in Enterprise, Alabama, and she got onto it because she saw the books on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and at the point in time, she was very interested in reading book 1, which was affordable. But book 2 at the time, somebody was asking $1,200.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she got in touch with me through Facebook, and we finally changed phone numbers, and we started talking on the phone. And she goes, I want to get number 1. I want to get that. I can afford that because it was selling at about $6 to $16 plus shipping. And she says, I want to get that, but I also want to read number 2. I says, well, you're not going to pay $1,200. She goes, I can't. I said, I'll do you a deal. I do have copies. If you send me $38, I will send you both books, signed. I sent her the books. She read them. She goes, oh, my God, these would make a great film. Mm-hmm. I said, well, you're an actress. What do you think? I says, would you like to play the female lead? Now, here's the problem with the first movie. The female lead doesn't come in until the end because she ends the film, but she doesn't come in until the very end. And like I said to Sky, I says, listen, because we're not going to film chronologically, but you don't have a lot to do with the beginning of the whole thing. I says, you could help me out in the production area. I would like you as an assistant when you're not working in front of the camera. I says, and then we'll put you on salary for that too, production assistant. So you'll be helping me out, making sure these people, know their lines and know their position, and and you're an actress, you know how it goes, and if they need a little coaching, you can coach them. I says, you willing to do it? She goes, yeah. And I said, I'll make sure you get paid for those services. I said, so you'll go in as an actress, you'll go in as a production assistant, an acting coach, blah, blah, blah. I said, you're going to get a lot of credits out of this. This is going to widen your IMDb page. Mm-hmm. Not only acting, but production and coaching and all that stuff. It's a great boost for her.
Yep.
So, she's on board big time.
Oh, that's
great.
Goes,
yeah. I said, so and then she has a southern accent. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning I was saying, can you do a northern accent? Because I figured it was going to be up here. But when I talked to Melissa said, I would love to film it in Connecticut, but it would cost way too much, and Connecticut they wouldn't let Jack Nicholson film in Connecticut when he did Witches of Eastwick.
Okay.
They had to go to Rhode Island for that. He wanted to do that film in Connecticut, Eastwick, Connecticut. Connecticut shut it down. No, they wouldn't even do it for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they went to Rhode Island, and they found a town that they wanted to use, and they just, changed all the signs to Eastwick. And they let them do it. So Connecticut's they're very stuffy about that stuff. They don't like it. Although they have 2 casinos, they like the money, of course. But so she said, I'd love to. She said, I've always wanted to film in Connecticut. She goes, but something, Jim, it'll be almost impossible. She said, would you mind? And I held my breath. She goes, would you mind if we switched it to Louisiana, which is the number 1 place to film right now, and the tax credits are unbelievable. I says, what about the city? She goes, we can still call it Mystic. It'll be a fictional city in Louisiana, just like it's been done in thousands of films. So I said, okay, that solves a lot of problems. She goes, what do you mean? I says, well, the actress I want to use has a Southern accent. She goes, fine. We don't need an acting coach. We don't need a voice coach, she said, because voice coaches are expensive and you have to have them on set all the time.
Yeah.
So she goes, that rules that out, and anybody else you want to cast with a Southern accent, just go for it, because it's going to happen on the Gulf Coast. And that's what I did. Most of the actors now that I got have, and actually what I found out, too, is being down there. I was down there twice now in Mobile, which is a fantastic place, by the way. Mm-hmm. I loved being down there. Loved the people, loved the weather.
Did you visit Skye both times?
I visited Skye the second time.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the reasons I went down to do the interview with you and her. Mm-hmm. I went down there for that, and for also to do some location scouting, and also to talk to people, because what I found out was men don't have. Women have more of a heavy accent than men do when it comes to Southern accents, unless they're really out in the country. They want to act like a cowboy. But the women have the Southern accent heavier than the men. Men almost, you have to listen really hard to get it. Because men still want to sound like masculine men. Because Southern accents sound like singing, versus you and me, we sound like we're just talking. We're very mundane. Most Southern accent syllables are in different notes. When they're talking freely and relaxed, they're almost like they're singing, because every syllable is a different note. We talk very, like every syllable almost is the same note, unless we get excited. But men down there don't want to sound like women, so they hold back. They try to use more of a northern Southern accent. And what I found out was Alabama, where Skye comes from, middle Alabama, heavy accent. Northern Alabama, less. Southern Alabama, less. And I'm like, wow, this is really weird. It's all because of education. It's education, because a lot of the people in northern Alabama and northern Mississippi and northern Louisiana are educated by northern teachers. So they pick up their accent from them. Middle, they're educated by resident teachers that live down there and talk like that. And in the South, this was amazing. As I was talking, one of the people at the desk at my hotel did not have an accent. And I was in there one night hanging around the lobby, and when he was done, I walked over. I said, by the way, I noticed you don't have, he says, don't say another word. I don't have a Southern accent. I said, yeah. He said, that's because I was educated up north, and then I came back. Yes, he goes, I was born here, my family is here. But I went up to Chicago and got my education, then I came back. My brother has the accent, but I don't. I said, is it in the same house? He goes, yeah. I said, he goes, yeah, I know, it's weird. We speak differently, but we live in the same house. And that's what happens down there. People get transplanted. So that's what they really, the impression of me was that I was probably born there, left to go get an education, then came back. So they didn't reject me. They just felt that I was transplanted. I said, this is great. So that's why they warmed to me. They didn't look at me as, a Yankee. They just looked at me as someone who was probably born in the South, moved, went to the North, got educated, like I said, and then came back. Which is great. It works great for you because they don't reject you.
Talk about other casting in it. You got Skye, and you're going
after... The other casting was, the main character I got, he contacted me. When everything started going out on Facebook and on the Internet, and Melissa started publicizing, because she puts out these press releases. She's been doing it since day one. She put out the first press release saying that I was excited that Blood Passion was going to be in a production, and that went out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen them? And people see that. People that are in the acting, they're interested in acting, they keep in touch. It's like reading Variety to find out what's going on or what's coming or what's in the works. Now the internet does it. These press releases go out to all the people in show business that are interested in reading, producers, actors, directors. They all keep in touch with press releases and what's going on. The press releases go, and all actors go to these websites too and look at press releases. There's several different websites. There's the VIP website. There's the Muffin website. You can go there and you'll see a list of them, and they read them. It's like reading Variety. Well, he saw it. He saw that my book was going to be going into production or going into pre-production, and he contacted me through Facebook, which is why Facebook's so damn important. He sent me a message on Facebook. I'm an inspiring actor. I've been in a few things. I've done some theater, and I'd love to be in your production. So I wrote back and said, well, I need to know what you look like. Now, Michael, my character Michael, was really based on me as a younger man in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Merlin, who will be playing Michael, looks a lot like me when I was in my 30s. He's from Kentucky. He has a slight southern accent. He's actually he actually has a Kentucky accent, which is a little different than Alabama or, anywhere down there. Almost every state in the middle of America and in South they have their own way of talking, which is kind of fun. He has a Kentucky accent. Mississippi has a Mississippi accent. They use different words. They emphasize different syllables different ways. Yeah. I only met one person in Mobile that I had a hard time communicating with because he was an older gentleman with a very heavy Southern drawl. And his wife would interpret for me. That was a riot. I met him, I was talking to him, and I was looking at his wife, and she saw the confused look on my face. She goes, what he means is, and then she told me, I said, oh, okay, because she knew that I was having a problem understanding him. But anyway, besides the point. So now, I've got Sky as the main female, and now I've got Merlin as and Merlin is he goes around, he gets mistaken for Hugh Jackman. People actually walk up to him and ask him for his autograph.
Yeah.
And he has to tell them, I'm not Hugh Jackman. Because he looks like Hugh Jackman when Hugh Jackman first played the Wolverine.
Okay.
Which is great, because, we got a Hugh Jackman look-alike. Very handsome man. He's 6'2", weighs 230 pounds. He's a formidable-looking man. I met him.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a couple hours with him in Mobile. We had dinner together. He is a Kentucky gentleman. And he's just an all-around great guy. I said, you're perfect for the part. I said, just do it just act. I want you to act the way you're acting right now. I said, you've got a great look. He looks dangerous. He's big, he's bulky. I said, you don't look like a wimp, that's for sure. I said, we had the fangs and the red eyes, and, you're a monster. So I said, I want you to play Michael. I says, but here's the task. Michael's in the film from the start to the end, almost to the end. I said, that's a lot of work. Where characters are coming in and out. Victims are in and out. Victim comes in, gets killed, they're gone. Character comes in, they do their thing, and they're gone. Michael has most of the film time. His face is on camera the most.
So he's going to
carry it. Can you do it? Are you up for it? He goes, yeah, I can do it. I said, you're going to be working your butt off. Long hours. I says, you have two buddies in the film. They'll be going in and out of it. But you are the main character. The story is told from the point of view of the vampire, or the character of the vampire. That's what people liked, I think. I've been hearing that often lately. They go, I love the fact that you've told the story from the point of view of the vampire.
Yeah.
I said, well, he's the main character. They go, yeah, but a lot of stories are told from the point of view of the person that's hunting the vampire, or, it's people that could observe him or her. You go right into his life. I says, yeah, I'm telling you his life. You're going into his house. You're going into his private life. You're beside him. When he's killing and when he's not killing, you're there with him. They liked it. That was also the thrill. That was the thrilling part of it all, that they were right there with him all the time. Like right beside him, watching him do this. Yeah. So that's the different approach to my story. And that's what people really like. They emphasize that. They go, I like the fact that I'm seeing this story through the eyes of the vampire.
So
and also he's human, so he's half human, half vampire.
So
you have to half the time it's through his human eyes, the other half. And there's a gentleman that is very much into horror. He's also been on Chicago PD. Mm-hmm. He plays a Homeland Security character. He goes in and out of the stories. He's being cast as one of the homeless people.
Okay.
His name is Jeffrey Steele.
Okay.
And he's a friend of Melissa. He contacted Melissa. Melissa, he said, I want to speak to JM. And we talked on the phone for a while. He says, I read the manuscript. He goes, what I love about your story is the fact that when you're looking through his eyes, there's a red haze. So you know that you're looking through the eyes of a vampire. He goes, I've never seen that done before, except for like a night vision binoculars. He goes, but you know that you're first person, and you're inside that vampire, and you're seeing everything with a red haze to it. He goes, that is beautiful.
Well, in terms of production, when's it going to start filming?
Well, her schedule is end of this year or beginning of next year, release in 2020, with three main premieres: New York, L.A., and Atlanta. That's what she's shooting for. And she's never given up. I mean, she's going on Florida television next week.
Okay.
She is getting married tomorrow.
Oh, is she?
She's getting married tomorrow. The following Friday, she goes on Florida local television to promote Blood Passion and a few other projects she's working on.
Okay.
She's almost like working on a project to try to fund Blood Passion, because the person that she's working with for their film is funding their own film, and they were interested. They said, she's helping to write the screenplay, because she's also a screenplay writer, for this film this person wrote. And it's a wartime film. It's going to be filmed in Europe. It's about a German soldier falling in love with a Jewish woman who's in captive.
Okay.
It's a love story during the war between, the enemy. And he needed help with the screenplay, and he went to her. And she told me, she says, well, I'm working on a project already, and what is it? And when he said, well, listen, I'd want to look at your project. She goes, if you help me with this, and I'm impressed with your help, your talents, I want to look at Blood Passion. I might want to finance that too.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the way they do it. It's like Lucas. Lucas did Star Wars to finance Indiana Jones. Star Wars was not his baby. Indiana Jones was his baby. But no one would finance it for him back then. Nobody was interested. Because I know why. It was Alan Quatermain. It was a redoing of Alan Quatermain. You know who Alan Quatermain was, right?
Yep.
Okay. When I first saw it, I said, this is Alan Quatermain. Although Alan Quatermain was an adventurer, not an archaeologist, it's still the same type of deal. I said, it's a reimagining of Alan Quatermain. And I guess Hollywood just didn't like the fact that it was just a redo of Alan Quatermain, because that's been done to death with Richard Chamberlain. And actually Sharon Stone got her start on one of those movies.
Yeah,
that was one of her first films.
Yeah, but that came after Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. But anyway, he wanted to do Raiders. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But nobody would finance it for him. And then he latched on to Star Wars, which is originally The Adventures of Luke Skywalker by, I forget the original writer's name. He has a three-name name. Alan Dean Smith, I think his name was, something like that. He wrote it. I have the original paperback.
Okay.
It's entitled The Adventures of Luke Skywalker, Star Wars. Lucas bought the book. He sold out to Lucas. He sold him the book. Lucas took the book, plastered his name on it as being the writer, and made the film, hoping he'd make enough money to make Raiders. And he did. Of course, you know the history of that.
Yeah.
Then he made Raiders, and he made even more money, and made more Star Wars, and made more Raiders, and blah, blah, and they took off. But his idea, he wanted Raiders first. That's what he was really trying for. So Melissa's got the same idea. She goes, if I can get financing from somebody, if I work for somebody who's willing to finance Blood Passion, we can go non-union and get this out quicker than we want, and then we can go right into book 2. And don't forget, book 2 is the favorite of the 3 books. I've been told too many times. I was amazed. People that have read all 3 came to me with all due respect. They said, Jim, with all due respect, I like book 1. I absolutely love book 2, and I do like book 3. But I love book 2. Book 2, to me, is the best of the series. Now, I said to people, I says, how often do people like the sequel better than the original, whether it's a movie or a book or anything? I mean, most people ridicule the sequels, except for James Bond, that is. I mean, when you look at The Matrix, people hated the sequels.
Yeah.
They loved the original. They didn't like the sequels. But this, with me, it's reversed. It's like they like book 2 better than book 1. And I just attribute that to that I became a better writer. I changed the characters. I added a few more things. I just widened the story out a little bit. And it also sewed up a lot of things that were questionable in book 1. It closed all the doors. But yeah, I mean, I was amazed. I think people were telling me that. I said, really? You like the sequel? Oh, yeah, I love book 2. They go, I read it twice. Okay. So, and even, people told me after they read, they said, if book 1 could be book 2 would even be a better film. So Melissa said to me, goes, I want to do all 3 of them. I'm shooting to do all 3 of those books. And a 4th if you can do it.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. You're doing a 4th, huh?
Well, the 4th is, I stopped because I'm working on, I'm working on production of this film. So I've been doing a lot of, and writing a screenplay is more difficult than writing a book.
Yeah. How many books are you going to do?
I don't know. I mean, I've got, those 3 are published. I've got number 4 halfway done. Number 4 is a little more, I'm bringing in, and I take a note from L. Frank Baum. L. Frank Baum wrote 15 books on the world of Oz.
Okay.
And I've read them all. And every book has at least one new character, along with the old characters. So I said, okay, if I'm going to write sequels, I got to bring in I got to either get rid of old characters and bring in new ones, like they did on Game of Thrones.
Okay.
So it's sort of between Game of Thrones and L. Frank Baum's Oz. Yeah, I got rid of 2 characters that were in book 1 and book 2, and brought in 2 new ones. So that's the Game of Thrones thing. And for me, people love that. They love that idea because they just love who's coming next.
Yep.
So I took that on, but it's mostly because L. Frank Baum, the way he did his thing. It was refreshing to bring in a new, because I kept reading Oz books because I was wondering what the new character was going to be like, and which old ones we were going to bring back. So I said, if these, L. Frank Baum was super successful as far as literary, Hollywood missed the boat on him, big time.
Yeah.
They could have went nuts with his stuff and made tons of money. And they recently did one, which I thought was good. It had a lot to do with the few of the books that he wrote, had some elements of that. I saw different elements, and also widened the story out to it's not just the Munchkins lived. It is a lot of different civilizations that live in the land of Oz. And in the new movie, those were shown. They showed the Munchkins, but they also showed the other people that live out there too, live in that place too. But it was great. It widened the story out. And, I thought L. Frank Baum he has an unlimited imagination. To write 15 books of the same place,
Yep.
as far as I can see, that was a successful sequel book series. And then he wrote other stuff that tied in. And he also crossed over. He did some crossovers, too. It was like, when I got into him, I'm like, oh, my God, this guy's unbelievable. He did the Oz books. He did crossovers. He had adventures of these other people that actually wound up in Oz for a while. And, they got together, and it's like, it was like team up. They teamed up. Like, this is so cool. He also wrote stories about Santa Claus, which are actually more realistic than what we have. His origin of Santa Claus is much more realistic than the one we've been living with.
Okay.
There was also an animated show that was based on his story of Santa Claus. Yeah, the classic writers, I was asked that recently, who do you like? I said, I like Doyle, Wells, Baum, Howard, Burroughs, Bradbury, all those guys. I love them all, and I want to be one of them. And as far as television series, Dan Curtis was a genius. I want to like step in his place. I want to walk in his shoes. I want to do an ensemble cast, using the same actors to play different characters, but looking differently, and not being on scene at the same time. I want to do what Dan Curtis, to me, Dark Shadows was probably the most successful daytime series in the history of television. It went for quite a while. And how that started, it still amazes me to this day. He had a dream about a young girl traveling on a train at night, and it became Dark Shadows. Of course, the series began without the vampire, but when the attention started to wane, that's when he brought in Barnabas Collins. And then the attention went through the roof.
Tell me...
Barnabas was the perfect gentleman vampire.
So tell me, how many roles is Sky going to have?
Sky actually only gets one.
Just
That's
one,
what's weird.
okay.
She only has one to play. Because
Yeah.
Merlin has two. He plays Michael. He plays the vampire, which is him, but in different persona. Different personality, looks a little different. And then the other characters are playing multiple. Like Eric Hughes, which he's a great actor in his own right. He's also... He had a meeting with Melissa recently, and she said to him, he has a new film he's putting together. It's called Cold. It's about a girl that is abused by her father, and I got Sky. He's interested in using Sky as the mother in the film.
Okay.
I said, great. I said, you got a part for Sky? He goes, well, she could play the mother in Cold. Melissa said to him, I want 2 films from you a year. He goes, well, I got Born to be Wasted, almost finished writing that screenplay, and I got Cold, which I started. She goes, good, let's do those 2. So he's on board. He's also going to be in Blood Passion as the grandfather and Michael's father.
Okay.
His wife is going to play the neighbor and one of the female victims. We're just going to, I says, if you can change the length and color of your hair, you play one character as long-haired, light blonde. You play the other character short-haired, dark blonde. I says, and just use different color lipstick, She goes, I can do that. I says, good, because she's an actress in her own right, too. So she's playing 2 parts, which means, I said, the bottom line is you get 2 salaries, I said. You'll come in as the neighbor, you finish that up. Later on, you come back and play this other character. So you get another paycheck. They love it. The actors are like, oh, my God, this is the dream. I said, yeah, well, this is what Dan Curtis did with his actors. They got paid to play different characters. He kept them going as different characters. So they stayed in the series. They didn't leave and somebody else came in. I said, this is what Dan Curtis did, and he did have, in history, the most successful daytime drama to date. And it's still on television somewhere. They still have reunion conventions. It's still out there. It's not dead yet. And, of course, Tim Burton screwed it up big time.
Yeah.
I had high hopes for that. I was so disappointed, Greg. I really was. I said, oh, my God, they're going to make, when I saw it coming. I saw the press release that did, that Johnny Depp has signed for the Blood Passion film. And then I heard later on he's going to play Barnabas Collins. I said, if they do this right, it will be fantastic. But they didn't do it right. They got the wrong director, as far as I'm concerned, and the wrong screenwriters. But Tim Burton, as much as, I don't consider him to be a great director or, creator. I really don't. I don't care for much. The Batman thing only succeeded because he got Jack Nicholson to play the Joker. That was the shoe-in right there. People went to Batman to see him play the Joker, not to see Keaton play Batman. I would love to go back in time and see how that would have done without Jack Nicholson playing the Joker.
I agree.
I think it would have died. I think it would have died and never had another sequel. So, I mean, he got lucky there. Casting is what made that film. It wasn't the story. It wasn't the director. It was Jack Nicholson. And Jack was smart. He didn't take a salary. He took a percentage of the profits and a percentage of the marketing. He made $80 million. He made a gross of $80 million from that film. Imagine that.
Yep.
Jack got $80 million from Batman 1989.
I've seen Tim Burton movies I like, though. Like I said, Ed Wood's.
Well, I thought Beetlejuice was totally stupid. I mean, that's
I like
a joke
Beetlejuice, yeah. I like
And then talking about a
Beetlejuice.
sequel, I'm like, please don't make a sequel to this.
And I like Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow was okay because he didn't stray too much from the original story. He strayed a little bit, but not enough to ruin it. I mean, he didn't make Ichabod Crane a teacher. He made him a law enforcement officer, which was a different approach. But the thing is, like in Blood Pass, she said to me, I want the base story there. The core of the story's got to be there. Do whatever you want, but tell the core story.
Yeah.
Now, that's what he did with Sleepy Hollow. He did tell the core story. He made some slight changes here and there, but they weren't enough to ruin it. When I watched it, I said, wait a minute, Ichabod's supposed to be a school teacher. Because I've seen other productions, and I've read the short story. Ichabod Crane. And actually, Depp was not a good physical representation of Ichabod Crane. He's supposed to be, who did a great representation was, what's his name? He was in, he's been in a lot of stuff. I can't remember his name.
I know.
He's tall, he's thin. He's most famous probably for now, Independence Day.
Oh, Jeff Goldblum?
Jeff. He did, way back in his early days, he did Ichabod Crane, and he pulled it off physically. Because that's what Ichabod Crane was. He was tall, spindly, fragile, school teacher. And, that's what the character's supposed to be. I said, Johnny Depp, he's not tall enough, he's not skinny enough. That's why I think he changed him to a law enforcement officer, because he would have never passed off as a school teacher. I also seen another production where this other actor played it that looked like Joel. He also almost a version of Joel Grey. I said I thought it was Joel Grey, but it wasn't.
Okay.
And this guy wasn't as tall, but he was skinny and spindly and kind of weakish looking. But that's what Ichabod Crane is supposed to be like. As a school teacher, playing Ichabod Crane as a school teacher, you should have him be tall and skinny and kind of fragile. But playing him as a law enforcement officer, you can make changes. That's where Burton gets away with it. Yeah, that was good. But I didn't like, the Batman thing is because of Jack Nicholson. That was the great part of the whole thing. Okay. And then he went forward with the second one. He brought in some other actors that were great to watch. But then he left, and Schumacher came in and ruined the franchise.
Yeah, Batman and Robin.
Yeah, oh, God. Arnold playing Mr. Freeze, I went, oh, my God, no.
Yeah, it was pretty awful.
It was pretty bad. I mean, they were riding on the success of the first two films. But anyway, the recent ones I like the ones with Kristen Bale. Those were good. I thought those were great.
I agree, yep.
I don't know what's going to happen from here on with that. That's still way up in the air whether there's going to be another solo Batman film.
Actually, I lost a lot.
Justice League.
I lost a lot of interest in the superhero movies because watching Justice League, the only two superheroes that really made any impact against that villain were Superman and Wonder Woman. Everybody else just got their asses handed to them.
Yeah, well, that's the way, because those two characters are the most powerful ones.
Yep.
But also, I'm a child of the 60s. I read those comics.
Mm-hmm.
I know the original origins of all those characters. I know the backgrounds of the creators and the writers and the artists. Okay? And, when I saw them, I went, oh, my God. The Black Panther movie?
Mm-hmm.
The Black Panther was just a black version of Daredevil in the comic books. He didn't have superpowers. He didn't have a super suit. he was just a regular guy with agility and fighting. He could fight his way out of anything. He could take on 3 guys and beat them like Daredevil. Because back then, Marvel they were trying to create a black superhero. They did Black Goliath, which actually showed up in the second Ant-Man film,
Okay.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I didn't
There was a
see
character
it.
that was supposed to, because he mentions that he was Black Goliath.
Yeah, I didn't see
That didn't
it.
go too far. They did about 6 issues of that. It died. And, Stan Lee went to Jack Kirby, the king of comics. He said, we need a black superhero. So in the Fantastic Four, he created the Black Panther. But he created him after Daredevil. It was a black version of Daredevil, which was a regular guy with great strength and great agility, and he could fight. That was it. I saw the movie. I went, this is not Black Panther that I know.
Okay.
I was disappointed because Disney is just doing whatever they want. They own these characters now. They can do whatever they want. And what they've done with Spider-Man is ridiculous.
Why is that?
Well, it keeps going back and forth. I mean, they keep reinventing him. The first few movies I liked them. They were great. They really stuck to the comic book. But then they went off on the tangent, and when they got the new actor and did a couple with him, and now with the Avengers, Spider-Man, the Avengers, where Tony Stark gave him a technical suit, I'm like, oh my God.
Okay.
And actually, I saw so many flaws in the Avengers from the comic books. The Vision was created by Henry Pym, who was the original Ant-Man, not Tony Stark. And the Vision was way back in the 40s, there was Captain America, Submariner, and the original Human Torch. The Human Torch was an android whose body turned into flames. And the Vision, when they stopped having him being the Human Torch, they turned him into the Vision. So the Vision's body is actually the original Human Torch's body. I know it's a little complicated, but it plays out in the comics. So when I saw how they created the Vision, I'm like, this is so wrong.
I like the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse animation.
You saw? I didn't see that yet. No.
So I went to that twice. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you did, because it's nice to see that somebody's enjoying the new versions.
Well, here's the thing. I don't go to a lot of those films, but I went to that one. I was very, very pleased with the theme behind the movie, and that anybody can be a superhero, so to speak, and it really pays tribute to individuality. But
what they did with Spider-Man, they did with Thor. They did with Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Hulk, the thing is, what they realized was that Hulk's ability was in his blood. So She-Hulk was created because his cousin needed a transfusion. He gave her some of his blood. She turned into She-Hulk, which they talk about doing. They're talking about bringing that character in. Captain Marvel, oh my God. I have the original comic book with the original appearance of the original Captain Marvel in the green suit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an alien like Superman.
Okay.
Okay, he's from the Kree. He's a Kree. And he's sort of like Marvel's Green Lantern. I mean, like I said, everything's been done. All you can do is do it differently. So originally he's a man who goes along for a while, and they change his suit here and there, and they change his appearance. But then they killed him. They gave him cancer, and he dies. But in the meantime, he has a son who becomes Captain Marvel #2. But then people lose interest in him. They change him into a female. The first female Captain Marvel was a black woman. They used her in the comic books for a while. She was in the Avengers. She had her own series. But that didn't go over too well. So then they changed it to a white woman, Carol Danvers, which they're now using in the Avengers. So I'm like, I wish they had done the original Captain Marvel, the man, first. So, I don't know. I mean, don't forget, I'm a child of the 60s. I read the original books, the original stuff. I'm a super fan of Jack Kirby. I love the guy's work. Actually, Marvel is talking about now doing his Eternals.
Okay.
Eternals is something he created from scratch on his own. He wrote it, he drew it, and they're still doing it today, even after he died. Marvel has now announced that they want to do an Eternals film. I'm like, awesome, that's Jack. Nothing to do with Lee. Stan Lee had nothing to do with that. That's Jack on his own. So you shouldn't see credits for Stan Lee on the screen when that film comes out. It'll be, Jack Kirby. That's it. Creator Jack Kirby. And it was a great series. It went about 12 issues. Jack had a limited attention span. He always wanted to do something different and something new. So he would do something for a while, then he would switch to another character. And basically, all the Marvel characters came from Jack's brain. The Fantastic Four comes from his creation of the Challenges of the Unknown. 4 men. 4 scientists going into unknown situations. That became the Fantastic Four. Spider-Man was originally called the Night Glider. Jack created. He had drawings of it. No story. Stan Lee looked at everything Jack had drawn. When he looked at the Night Glider, he said, we can do something with this. Now, this is where Stan Lee comes in with his creativity. He changed the Night Glider into Spider-Man. But originally, it was Jack Kirby's creation. Jack Kirby did the first cover for Spider-Man. He did the layouts with Steve Ditko doing the finished artwork. Jack Kirby, back in the 60s, was drawing or laying out all 12 of Marvel's monthly comics. Nobody has ever done that in the history of comics. He was either drawing them or doing the layouts, and another artist would finish her up. But there were 12 comics coming out a month from Marvel. Not a month. Well, there were 8 a month, and then there were 4 bi-monthlies. But Jack had his hand in every one of them. He actually created a character before the character that became the character. Without Jack, you wouldn't have what you have today. Even Darth Vader, when he created Dr. Doom, Lucas will admit that he based Darth Vader on Dr. Doom from Jack Kirby. And I was like, it's about time somebody admitted that. Because I saw that at the get-go. I said, this is Dr. Doom. Because Dr. Doom wore a sort of armor and a mask to hide his face. And the armor, the suit he wore gave him energy and protection. So, yeah, Lucas finally admitted that, Jack Kirby was the inspiration for Darth Vader. I said, finally, he admits it. Jack is called Jack the King Kirby. Without him, he created Captain America back in the 40s. He had his hands in Submariner and the Human Torch. He was the inspiration for a lot of characters. If he didn't create them, he inspired the characters. And he had the idea. Somebody just ran with it. Jack Kirby, who died in 1994, unfortunately, I missed him by 5 minutes at a convention up in Boston.
Okay.
I was going because I wanted to meet him. I got in there. He had left 5 minutes before I got there. I met his inker, Joe Sonat. So I talked to him for a while. I said, what's it like? He told me, what's it like working with Jack? He goes, oh, he's a pain in the ass. He goes, if I don't ink it right, he gets pissed off. He has to redraw it. He goes, he's a great guy, but he's very meticulous about his work. I says, that's great. He goes, yeah, he just left 5 minutes ago. I said, shit, I missed him. I wanted to meet Jack Kirby so bad. He was my idol as far as comic books. I read if he did it, I wanted to read it. Then Marvel kind of gave him the shaft. He switched over to DC for a while, did New Gods. He did Jimmy Olsen comics for a while. It's funny. He would draw Superman and Jimmy Olsen comic books, but he couldn't do the face. Kurt Swan had to do the face. It was like a trademark thing. Kurt Swan is the original artist for Superman, the one that most people recognize. So when it came time for Jack to draw Superman in the Jimmy Olsen comic, they wouldn't let him draw the face. So he'd finish it up, leave the face blank, and Kurt Swan would come in and draw the face. So he had a Kurt Swan face and a Jack Kirby body. It was so weird.
Wow.
But yeah, he did that. He did New Gods, Forever People. Then he went back to Marvel because they said you can come back and do your old stuff. That's when he did a Black Panther comic. He did the Eternals, which were originally going to be called the New Gods, but he already done that at DC. So, and actually in the Justice League, the New Gods, they were supposed to bring Darkshade in. They didn't bring Darkshade in. Steppenwolf is an adversary of Darkshade that Jack Kirby created. That whole genre of that's another thing too. Darkseid is another version of Doctor Doom, and Thanos was created from Darkseid. Jim Starlin, who created Thanos, was based on Darkseid by Jack Kirby. Because Darkseid was the same thing. He was a conqueror. He wanted to take over Earth. It's in there. It's in the stories. But Jack was the inspiration for everything you see right now in comics.
Well,
Without him,
this is all stuff I did not know. I don't follow
Jack,
it in
you
much
would not
detail.
have Darth Vader. You would not have what you have today. You wouldn't have it. It wouldn't be. It'd be different. Wouldn't be the Jack Kirby version. Yeah. They even before he died, he even drew a few pictures of Darth Vader. Somebody said, "You got to draw Darth Vader for it." He just drew a couple of sketches. I've seen them. Jack was phenomenal. When he died, I was like so brokenhearted. I said, because he worked right up to his death, and then after they still publish his stuff in reprints. You can buy Jack Kirby comics done in reprints. They're still out there. They're still using the characters created. They're still reprinting his artwork. Yeah. He holds the record on consecutive issues. He did 101 consecutive issues of the Fantastic Four. Never missed an issue. No comic book artist has done that yet. No comic book artist has ever worked on or had anything to do with 12 comics in a month. They're lucky they can do one.
Yep.
Yeah, Jack, you talk to a comic book artist, say, "Oh, Jack is God," And that wasn't even his real name, Jack Kirby. I forget his real name. But he was a Jewish man who fought in World War II. And that's where he got the idea for Captain America. When he came home, him and Joe Simon created Captain America. And you know how long it took for that Captain America to come to the screen?
Yep.
Captain America was created in 1946, I believe it was. Just recently they did his first film. That's a lot of time. They tried to do some Saturday afternoon serials in the theaters. Didn't go over too well. I've seen some of them. They're really bad.
I think
They did a few television movies that were horrible.
The last two Captain America movies were fantastic, I think.
You thought they were good?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the ones they've done now? But you ever see the television movies?
Nope.
Where he's driving a motorcycle with the helmet that has the... Oh, God. Yeah, the television movies were horrible. The Saturday afternoon sequel things were bad. The movies were good. They really held true. Except for... and Nick Fury, which Nick Fury was created by Jack Kirby. It was Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos, which I used to read. Nick Fury was a white man who did lose his eye. He fought in World War II. He actually was given a version of the serum that Captain America had to keep him young so he could continue as being an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But he was a white man. So I'm like, they're just appealing to the audience now. They're just doing things to draw in the people.
Yep.
So, they decided, I guess, let's make Nick Fury a black man so we can draw in the black audience. Which I said, okay, that's what you're going to do it. But, yeah, I read all that stuff, from Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos right up to becoming the agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Jim Steranko coming out of the whole thing. Jim Steranko was a great artist, too, and a good creator. He was a student of Jack Kirby. He was one of the guys that would finish Jack Kirby's sketches and eventually went off on his own. Jim Steranko hasn't done much, but what he has done will blow you away.
Well, we're hoping to get blown away by Blood Passions, and you're saying 2020 that will hit theaters?
her schedule, her mind, it's 2020.
Okay.
She said it'll take us anywhere from 2 to 3.5 weeks to film it. The editing is going to take a few months, and then we'll put it out there. But then you gotta do it at the right time.
Yep.
And she wants to do 3 premieres, 3 red carpets. I'm like, getting tired just thinking about how much time I got to spend on this thing.
Yeah.
And I've been saying, I said, Sky, you're going to have the easiest part, unless you start helping me. I says, you can either wait, it's not going to be filmed. I talked to Melissa, is it filmed chronologically? She goes, no. It's filmed on availability of when we can film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we can't get a sound stage and have to wait, then, so on and so forth. When we go to Mobile, we got to find out when we can go there and when we can do it, because you got to get permission from the city and all that crap. So it's all scheduled by when we can film it. So, and we'll film what we can when we can. So I said, this guy says, you may be filming right away, but then you might have to wait. We go to Mobile, all your parts will be filmed at the house. Outside the house. There's a scene inside the house, too. I mean, at the end of the film, Sky's character's inside the house. We'll be doing the inside at the house. Those are sound stages, so that can be done anytime. But when we're in Mobile, she's going to want to film everything we need to film in Mobile. So everybody involved has to be there. Greg has to be there. Joey Thurman, Joey Thurman is playing 2 parts. He's playing one of the homeless men victims. He's also playing the owner of the bookstore. And the thing is, like I said to Melissa, these homeless people, it's going to be done at night. It's dark. You're in dark alleys, very little lighting. You're not really going to see anybody's face. You can see it in shadow. I said, so an actor playing a homeless person, then playing somebody else, you're not going to even know that there was the same person. Joey's going to play a victim that gets killed in an alleyway in the dark, and then he's going to play the bookstore owner, which is daytime stuff. She goes, yeah, nobody's going to see that he's the same person. I said, no. He does very little talking as a homeless person, but as the bookstore owner, he's well-dressed and groomed. As the homeless person, he'll be dirty, and his hair will be unruly, his clothes will be shabby. I said, he's going to look so different, you'll never know it's the same person.
Well,
and I got 2 other actors that are playing homeless people, too, and then they're playing regular people. But like I said, Melissa, don't forget, all these killings in the homeless people situation is done at night in very badly lit areas. He wants to do that. He doesn't want anybody to see him do it. He does it in the dark because he can see in the dark. When he's a vampire, his eyes turn red. He can see like ultraviolet. He can see like it's daytime. And that's what I want the camera to show. It's just a filter on the lens. It's a nighttime shot, but because he sees ultravioletly and it's all red, to him it looks like daylight. But to everybody else, it's dark. So all these actors are playing in the dark. You can't really see their face. When we go back, when he quits doing that, he goes back to doing it Mystic with these women he's taken home. Then these women get to play one part, except for one of them. And, I said they get, on average, these women have anywhere from, when they're a victim, anywhere from 6 to 10 minute segments in a film, which is a long time in a film. Minutes in a film, is a page on the screenplay. That's a whole page. 1 minute. So if you're playing 10 minutes, that's 10 pages. And none of the actors said that's not enough. One of them said to me, how long? I says, your segment, I'll send you your segment from the book. It'll roughly be 6 to 5 minute segment. They go, that's enough. That's great. I said, good. And the last victim he does is a longer segment, which is about an 8 to 10 minute segment. And hopefully I have a great actress for that. I'm still not sure of her finally going through with it, but anyway.
Well,
most people are they're more or less, verbally signed on. Nobody's signed on legally or, signed a contract yet. That happens once we get the legal department up and running. Melissa said, I've already informed the legal department that I'm going to need them. And as soon as we get the financing down, they get their money, and they'll draw up all the contracts, all the agreements. That's what they do. She goes, and that's when people have to start signing stuff.
Well,
because you don't do that till you get the legal department going. Because everything has to be done, legally. But yeah, so I mean, she said, yeah, the way you played this out, she goes, yeah, we can use the same person as two different characters. It'll play out great. I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's the Dan Curtis way. And then going forward, I want to use some of them. I want to have a roster to play from. But if I need someone that the roster doesn't fit, I got to bring in somebody new. Because the second book, you have a young girl. She's 7 years old. The story starts, she's 7. It ends when she's 19. So you need 3 actresses for that.
Well,
7-year-old, 13-year-old. She goes up to 16, and then she's finally 19 at the end of the story. So you need at least 3 girls to play that, I think. Unless you can find someone that can do 13 and 16 and 19. We're using makeup and hairstyle. But 7 years old, you got to get a younger person to do that. So, yeah.
Well,
so that would be a whole new casting for that. But that is a hell of a character. If somebody latches on to Rachel, they will become a superstar. Because Rachel is the focus after Michael. Rachel becomes the superstar in the story. She is introduced in book 2, grows to be 19 years old, continues in book 3, grows to be about 24, 25, and also continues into book 4. She takes over the story. And because my readers like her, I want to keep her going. I'm going to try to find a way not to kill her off.
Well, we're coming down, speaking of killing off, we're coming down to the end of our time.
Okay.
And, yeah.
You have any questions for me?
No, I gotta get ready for work here soon, so
okay.
No, I just let you do most of the talking. I chimed in when I could, and asked your questions, but we'll keep an eye on this project and see where it goes.
Well, this was great to talk to you in Python Paradise.
Absolutely.
I thought you called it Python's Pit.
No.
Okay.
It's Python's Paradise.
Python's Paradise, yeah.
Yep.
That's a cool name.
There you go.
Yeah. And you're the hyena.
Python Hyena, that's right.
Yeah, the Python Hyena. Is that like a mutated python?
Nope.
Crossed over with a hyena?
Nope. That's basically 2 animals I really like.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So if we put them together, we have you.
I guess so. Yep, somebody that's... Yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool. That's very cool. And thank you for having me on again.
Yep.
I really think you should look into having Sky on again. She has some things to talk about.
I will look into that. Yeah, maybe for April I might look into that when I get back.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd love to come back on your show.
Well, then I'll look.
And then when we get into more of the production, you could have me and her on again.
Sure. I'd be open for that.
So I'd love to see you have her on alone, and then later on have me and her back on the show.
Sure, we can do that.
Great. Sounds awesome.
Well, you have yourself a wonderful evening, and we'll be keeping in touch.
All right, so you'll send me this recording?
When it's ready.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You take care.
You too. Talk soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye.